Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuned in to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Now, before we go on to the next topic, there's an interesting, I'd say interesting, yeah, it's relatively interesting, we'll go with that. You might have seen a banner on our front page. Yeah? There is a banner on our front page which is taken from a site called zombiehead79.com. Now, zombiehead79.com is a podcast that reviews podcasts. Now, obviously, I've decided that the best course of action would be to create a podcast that reviews podcasts which review podcasts. And it'd be the most meta thing ever. It would be awesome. It'd be like me 20 minutes like, this podcast that reviewed podcasts about podcasts this week was awesome, yes. Now, I'm going to review this podcast about podcasts. Now, I don't think that this podcast about podcasts is really up to snuff. Yeah, it would actually be really terrible, wouldn't it? I should never have ideas again. Now, this one guy, he's got a good radio voice. I kind of like him. He's pretty entertaining. Admittedly, he had some weird audio issues, but whatever. Most of them do. And he came up with this cracking quote. He was reviewing Max Speed, right, which is another show which airs on our station, as you might expect. And he was saying, this show is hilarious. The French guy kills me. Right, you've got a show which has an American, a Canadian that sounds like an American, and a Mexican. Yeah? And what? The French guy? I'm stunned. What can I say? But yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty good. Admittedly, he seems to like everything, which is a little bit of a problem. He's got his latest reviews up here. I'm just looking at them. And he's got a rating system out of 10, and nothing he's put up there is lower than 8.5. Now, I know for a fact that some of the podcasts on that list are really bad. So I think he's liking too much. He gave my show a 9.8. I'm sorry, my show doesn't deserve a 9.8. Nothing deserves a 9.8. That's nigh on perfect in every way. My show's not nigh on perfect in every way. It's just really cool and awesome and heretics and monsters and Sindri and all that this good stuff. Anyway, quite enough of that. You should have a look at it. Zombiehead79.com, and it's time to talk about something meaningful. Now, we went into Ulduar, as I described, and we went up against the boss that I have many, many fond memories for. Yeah? But many fond memories. It goes by the name of XT002 Deconstructor. Yes, XT002 Deconstructor. And you should be aware of this boss. This is the most nerfed boss in the entire of Ulduar, right? Now, I assume the reason for that is because it's kind of a gatekeeper boss. Well, there are two gatekeeper bosses into the main Ulduar area. One of them is Flame Leviathan, who, well, let's face it, they can't really nerf anymore, and XT. Yeah? And XT is the gatekeeper boss. You can't get into the main area of Ulduar without killing XT. So, I suppose that was their justification in nerfing him to the ground, baby. Now, we've talked about the nerfs, but what disturbs me is my personal experience of this boss now. When we killed him on Wednesday, it was a joke. Yeah? You know what it felt like? I know exactly what it felt like. I know what I was thinking at the time. I was thinking, this is like a Naxx boss. They have turned it into a face roll. It's like none of this stuff can kill you anymore. Right? The amount of nerfs they made to this boss is ridiculous. The only nerf that I agree with is the shooting out light and gravity bombs while doing the Tympanic Tantrum, or whatever it's called. Because that was a BS mechanic. I didn't like that at all. That was just silly. So they got rid of that, and I was alright with that. But they also nerfed the light bomb. They nerfed the gravity bomb. They nerfed Tympanic Tantrum, which is his main ability, I might add. Tympanic Tantrum was basically, it does 10% of your health damage every second for 12 seconds. It's now the same as that, but with 8 seconds, meaning, obviously, I would think that some of you guys would know by now, it can't kill you. It cannot on its own kill you. Now, before that, of course, it was a threat. And it was a mechanic that was taken from one of the Emerald Dragons on the old level 60 raid bosses. World bosses, it is. And it was a good mechanic, because I remember actually wiping on that boss back when it mattered. The problem with it now is that the mechanic doesn't mean anything. Because you can't shoot out the bombs while doing the Tympanic Tantrum, the chances of anyone actually dying during the tantrum are astronomically low. really, massively, astronomically in every respect, low. It's like dying on Huygen. Who the hell dies on Huygen? Not anymore, anyway. People used to die on Huygen. When Huygen actually, killed you with his main mechanic. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But no, not anymore. We don't want that. That'll offend the casuals. It just upset me. Because I liked that boss. We had a good kill on that boss. It took a couple of days. But we had a good kill on the unnerfed version of that boss when it had a strict enrage timer, when it was shooting bombs, when its typanic tantrum could actually kill you, when light bombs did more damage. Yeah, then we had a good kill. We killed it, and it was a great kill. It felt like the old days. It did. It wasn't some hard mode BS like Sartharian 3 Drakes. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't Malagos. It wasn't anything in Naxx. It was old school. It was an old school kill with half your raid dead for whatever reason because the mechanics are difficult, with the enrage timer about to hit, and you're just so unsure whether or not you get the kill, and when you do, it feels awesome. Yes, it feels stellar. It's a great feeling. I love it. Now, no one's going to get that. At all. Now, here's a story of another boss that has also been nerfed. And this will, of course, come to the main point of this particular segment. How annoyed I am at this, and why, indeed, my entire guild is annoyed at this, and the effect that it has on the guild morale. This is something we haven't really discussed an awful lot of, and we should, because guild morale is a very real thing. Most people don't really do much with it. Most people don't even understand it. It's never really mentioned anywhere. It's not discussed in Theorycraft, because of course it's a non-quantifiable factor. It's not discussed by Blizzard themselves, because they don't really seem to recognise that it exists. But it does. Raid morale exists. Now, the other fight that we failed so hard on, I'm so embarrassed to say it, but we just absolutely screwed up. Razor Scale, not a difficult fight. Yeah? It was relatively challenging on launch, and then of course they nerfed it into the ground, and it doesn't have a hard mode, so there was nothing to buff there. They basically just turned what was a challenging boss into a crappy boss. A face roll boss. And yet somehow, I don't know if maybe half our raid was asleep. Possibly. Maybe they'd all been given sedatives. Or maybe they didn't have any eyes anymore. They were plucked out by an angry monkey. Came into their house and said, "I would like your eyes." And they said, "No, I'm not going to give you my eyes." And they said, "It doesn't matter, because I'm going to take them anyway." And then plucked them out. And there was screaming and blood and horror and all manner of terrible things. Families screaming, children running all over the place. Really unpleasant. And the monkey's just sitting there on top of the monitor, sort of licking this eyeball. Like, delicious. Now, if that actually happened, that would be a decent excuse. But it didn't. Did it? No. Oh no, and the one guy that said it did, you're a liar. Never happened. So what's your excuse? I have no idea what your excuse is, but it was stupid. But for all of the failing, we still killed it. Now, there are two ways to look at this. One way is like, oh, you must be an awesome guild if you managed to do that with a disadvantage. No, here's the real point. The boss sucks now. That's why we were able to do it. Nobody should have that many dead people within 2 minutes of starting Razor Scale. What the hell are you on? Nothing happens. Oh, fire come from the sky. Raiding is hard. Sometimes there is fire. Move out of it. Oh, chain lightning. Raiding is hard. Sometimes there is chain lightning. Move away from it. Raiding is hard. Sometimes there are ads. You kill them. Or in this case, you AoE them. Because that's how Naxx taught you to do trash. And somehow we still failed! Why? Anyway. Killing that boss was the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen. And a number of the veterans and proper raiders who had been in other guilds and really experienced the hard content when it mattered were like, guys, that sucked. Well, they said things far more profane than that, but we'll stick with sucked for the time being. That was appalling. That was just terrible. What are you doing? We don't even deserve the loot that comes off this boss. And funny enough, evidently, Blizzard obviously didn't think I deserved it either, because Master Loot bugged and I didn't get my trinket. We reported to GMs, that was 2 days ago. I still don't have my damn trinket. I'm so angry I could ring this bell. Perhaps that was the monkey that left that here. Never thought of that way before. Now, I find it a little bit disdainful. I find it disgraceful, and all those other good words that begin with D, that we should be able to kill that boss that way. This is the next step up in raiding, supposedly. And now what we've got are two bosses that are basically Naxx bosses. One of them is optional, one is not. One has a hard mode, which I might add has been... It's like they just tweaked random numbers into the hard mode. It's like, hey guys, what should we do with the hard mode this week? Well, let's look at the hard mode. It did 30% extra damage or so, give or take, and 40% extra health. Okay, let's make it 150% extra health. Herf derf. You just type that in at random. Next week it's going to be 167.42 health. Because we're just mucking about now. Oh yeah, and gravity bombs now do 50k damage. Ha ha, hard modes. It'll be awesome. Not awesome. Not awesome at all. We shouldn't have got that. We should be punished. And you want to know why we should be punished? Because actually, beating easy bosses lowers guild morale. It doesn't improve it. You might think that killing bosses improves guild morale, but it only improves guild morale if those bosses mattered to begin with. If they didn't matter, if they were just face rolls, then why do you think that would improve anyone's morale, other than scrubs, who just want loot, and want the easiest way to get it? Proper raiding guilds don't get morale off that, they get morale off killing a hard boss. The celebration on Ventnor's XT went down pre-nerf. Celebration on Ventnor, when Razor Scale went down pre-nerf, for God's sake. He used to have a 6-minute enrage, that was actually relatively challenging. We had to go all out. It was good. It felt right. It doesn't just affect guild morale, though. It affects guild focus. Guilds are never going to learn if Blizzard consistently nerfs that content. What are they going to learn from Razor Scale now? What are they going to learn from XT? I mean, make a comparison of what's happened. Make the comparison of XT pre-nerf, yeah? XT pre-nerf. How could you die? Well, there were various reasons. It had like a 6-minute enrage, which was a hard enrage. You had to be all out on the DPS. And that was tricky because you also had to deal with the ads, so you had to balance it. It was a careful balancing act. It required quite a bit of cohesion and coordination. Light bombs could easily kill you. Did loads of damage. Could easily kill people around you. Gravity bombs couldn't really kill you, but they were kind of annoying anyway. Tympanic Tantrum, and this is the big thing. Tympanic Tantrum is what always killed us, yeah? Particularly in combination with light and gravity bombs. That was the big tricky one. That was a big strain on the healers. Now, you've nerfed all of those areas. So you've basically nerfed every possible way to die on that boss, yeah? You can't really die to ads, because the pummelers do bugger all and they're very easy to tank. Scrapbots don't do anything, other than obviously heal the boss when they get to him. And the bombs, well, nobody kills the bombs on the way there anyway, unless you're in 10-man mode, where the bombs have, like, no health. They explode and they have a tiny AoE, and it's not difficult to avoid. You just have to stand on the other side of the boss. Like, oh, there's a bomb coming in, guys, let's not stand next to it. Even if you do get hit by it, it doesn't kill you most of the time. So there's the difference between a face roll and a good boss. Eh? Now, are you seriously telling me you prefer the face roll? Blizzard? Honestly? I mean, you designed a good encounter to begin with, right? The problem is that if you don't have to focus, you basically go to sleep at the keyboard and you face roll. That's where the whole thing came from. That's where the phrase appeared. And guilds were hating that in Naxx. It wasn't just because there was no new content, it's just because the existing content they had was terrible. It was too easy. It's like I was half asleep all the way through Naxx because I know what the hell was going to kill me, really. What honestly was a threat in that instance to me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I didn't have to be awake for any of it. And it's becoming the same way in Ulduar, and that disturbs me. More so than anything, because it's turning my guild into a guild that is not actually good enough. Because it's not focused. By the time it gets to a hard boss, it's already half asleep. Therein lies an issue. You listen to Blue Please. Yes, that was WoW Radio spoken in Ewok or something along those lines. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. I'll be right back after this we'll be speculating on BlizzCon. Enjoy.